Package came swift, I can smile again. My food supply was getting mighty thin. Love to go surfing, but I'm staying in. I ain't going nowhere. Said, hooey, what do you say? Do our part to keep it safe today. I'll watch out for you, please watch out for me. We ain't going nowhere. All right, everyone. Hey, how's it? It's Mr. Pat again. I'm coming from my house, but I'm representing the Windward Boys and Girls Club. Great to see you again. I'm going to put my guitar down here. Here's lesson 4 today. Starting up this week. We're always going to try to do something a little bit fun, whether it's exercise, music, something like that. I will have lessons just regarding mostly music and teach you a little bit about guitar, maybe stuff like that. You've seen the harp, ukulele, guitar, that's about it for me. But since we can't meet at the club like we do usually after school and have our tutoring and our music jams and stuff like that, we're trying to give this to you guys online, reach out and let you know we care. We're there for you. And this is what we can give you to help you learn, enjoy this time, because it is a tough time for everybody. Okay, so today I'm going to start in on my math stuff. We're going to talk about something called the division house today. So if you're the kind that follows along, go ahead and get your notebook, whatnot, and we'll start in on our lesson. Okay, let me get all set up. Sorry about that. Forgot to have my pens with me here. Okay, now I'm good to go. All right, so this thing I call the division house is a very diverse, cool trick. Now, I was a math teacher for 30 years, and one of the hardest things for students to learn really well is, let me make this looks a little funny, is fraction work. So people struggle with fractions. There's just across the board, that's the way it is. So as a teacher, you're always looking for something to help people get how to reduce fractions, find GCF, LCM, all those kinds of things. And then the hardest part is adding and subtracting. When you get into algebra, it's even harder. So this division house is something I stumbled on about 10, 15 years ago, and it's a gold mine. You learn one process and then how to use it to do all those things I just mentioned. And you can extend it to factoring in algebra, factoring binomials and stuff. So it's a really cool, not a trick, it's a method. So I'm going to go through it one application at a time. So we'll do the GCF, we'll reduce fractions in one lesson, we'll do the least common multiple and adding, subtracting fractions in another lesson. And then at the end of it, we'll also do our factoring in algebra. Okay, so today is using the division house for the purpose of finding the GCF. So I'm going to write, this is the main title for everything today, find the GCF. So if you don't remember, the GCF is the greatest common factor. So for example, if you're finding the GCF of 12 and 18, what you're asking is, what's the biggest number that divides into each of them? So if you look at 12, it's 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Those are all the factors of 12. We did that last time. 18 is 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. So this is a good way. You can find the GCF this way. It just gets tedious. So what you're looking for is a common, that's what the C stands for, and the greatest one, biggest one, and these are all the factors. So the common factors, they both have 1s, they both have 2, they both have 3, but the biggest one that they both have is 6. So the GCF, biggest number that goes into both 12 and 18 is 6. So we're going to use other examples, and we're going to use a different method to find that other than just listing factors. I just want to remind you what it was. Okay, so find the GCF of, and here is our first thing. Let's put it up here. Let's see, what do we use? How about 54 and 90? So those are the two numbers we're going to work with. We need to find the biggest number that goes into both of those. And I'm going to use the division house to do it. So here's what you do first. Every time you use the division house, what you do is you set up a division house. Okay. So you go like this, make it long, and you're going to put those two numbers inside there. So 54, give a space here, and then 90. Now your job, this is why I like it as a teacher. Think of any number that goes into both of those. So this is where everybody comes up with different stuff, because there's a lot of numbers going into that. One person might say 2, one person might say 9. You're not sure. So what I tell students, if you recognize any number that goes in, go ahead and use that. That makes sense. So if you see they're both even, then 2 goes into it. So I'll put a 2 out here. So I'm going to divide each of these by 2. So you can divide right here. You can actually go 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 goes into 14, 7. Or if you just know your division really well, you can say half of 90 is 45. So you can either go through the process or just do it like that. Okay, so you could have started with anything that works. We started with 2. Now, if you look at 27 and 45, there's other numbers that go into that. So you're not done yet. So what you do is you make another step. So now I'm only looking at 27 and 45. And if you know your times tables, well, 9 goes into both of those. So I go and divide by 9. Okay. So 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 5 is 45. So now I look and I see 3 and 5, nothing goes into them but 1. So that means I'm done. So now what I do is, to find the GCF, I look at what I divided by. So I take anything I divided by. So the GCF is these things multiplied together. So the GCF here is 18. So that's a cool way to do it. If you were the kind of person, you could have started with 6, and then the next step would have been 3. There's a lot of different ways. That's why it's great. You get to work within your comfort zone. So any number that goes into both of them is a good place to start. You don't have to worry about whether you picked the right one or not, as long as it divides into both numbers. Okay, so the GCF of 54 and 90 is 18. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to erase that. Okay, we're going to do another one. Okay, so let's give you one to practice on your own a little bit. I'll work slow. How about 120, and 72. So if you're working with me, go ahead and get that started. I'll kind of let a couple beats go by and then make my long house. I'll put both of them inside. I'm just going to use black for everything here. Get you used to that. So it's up to you where you start. You might think, yeah, I know 4 goes in, I know 2 goes in, whatever. It's up to you. Again, if they're both even, you know 2 works. Just to be different, maybe on this one I'll start at 4. So 4 goes into 120, that was easy. So now I'm not sure here, so I want to show you again on the first step you can just divide. 4 goes into 7 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 goes into 32 8 times 6. There you go. Okay, so 4 worked good. Could have started with 2 also. Could have started with 6. Lots of choices. That doesn't matter. What matters is you look and now you're not done, because that can still go more. So you go like this. Let's say you're locked into even numbers and you go 2. Half of 30 is 15. Half of that is 9. Now a lot of people will stop right here. That's a mistake. Because 15 and 9 can both be divided by one more number. So catch up here. Other number is 3. There you go. 5 and 3. So now you got to regroup yourself. And all you're after is the greatest common factor. So you're looking at all the things outside multiplied together. So your GCF of 120 and 72 is 4 times 2 times 3. 4 times 2 is 8, times 3 is 24. That's your answer. Okay. So there's other things you're going to do with this. Right now we're learning the process, and GCF is all the steps you divide by multiply together. Okay. I want to show you a couple more examples. Okay. The next one we're going to stay with numbers, then we'll branch into algebra. Again, whatever you divide by, multiplied together gives you your GCF. Make sure you go all the way till you can't divide anymore. Okay. So example number 3, I'm going to pick these two. 16 and 27. All right. Make my house right there. And then you start to thinking. And you go 16. And 1 times 16, 2 times 8, none of those. 4 times 4, you go, huh? 27 is 1 times 27 or 3 times 9. You go, huh? So you don't know what to do. So if you ever get one of these where you're looking at the two numbers and no more nothing, there's nothing you can find that goes in, there's always a GCF. So if you can't use the division house to find anything that goes in, the GCF is 1. Okay, don't say there's nothing. It is. So the biggest number that divides into both of those is 1. Now I'm going to throw a vocabulary thing at you right now. If the GCF is 1, it has a special classification name of these two numbers. You heard of prime and composite numbers. It doesn't mean they're prime numbers, but if the GCF is 1, they are called a pair of relatively prime numbers. So the definition of relatively prime is not that they're prime numbers. The definition of relatively prime is that the GCF of those two numbers is 1. Just wanted to throw that at you so you didn't think you were making a mistake if that happens to you. Okay, moving right along, algebra. So you guys are going upwards in math, not backwards. You know, if you're in the 4th, 5th, 6th grade looking at this, you're learning stuff that'll really pay off. You know, these things I'm going to be teaching you with the division house will help you do fractions right and left. If you're in 7th, 8th grade and you're going to be going upwards, you want to know how does this apply to algebra. So I am going to take an example. Let's say, here we go, 24x to the 3rd power and 30x. So we're going to do the same thing with a slight variation. Excuse me. So make your house, but when I write 24x cubed, I'm going to expand the x cubed out. X cubed means x times x times x. So I'm going to write that. Remember, all these are multiplication. And I'm going to make a space, and I'm going to put that. All right? Okay. Okay, your first step is going to be dealing with the numerical part, the numbers. And you're just going to bring the variables along for now. So just think of 24 and 30. So maybe you go, hey, I brought it both even. So 12, 24 divided by 2 is 12. Go ahead and bring those x's up. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Bring that x up. Okay. Now still keep looking at the numbers, what you see. And hopefully you see that 3, 12 and 15 are not done. 3 will go into it. So I am going to go like this. I'm going to divide by 3 now. Okay, I got 4 right there. Bring those x's up. Don't forget them. 15 divided by 15 divided by 3 is 5. Bring that x up. Don't forget it. Okay, so now 4 and 5, your pal. That's it. But now what you do is you look, and if you got the same variable on both of those, you can still take something else out. So before I go any further, I want you to focus that you are dividing by these numbers. You're dividing a 2 out of each thing. You only write 1, 2, but it's dividing into both. Here you're dividing a 3 into each thing. Each one of these is divided by 3, but I only write one of them. That's important because what you're going to do now is you're actually going to divide out an x. So you look at this, and over here got 3 x's, all multiplied together. Over here got 1x. So I'm going to take the most number of x's I can, but I have to take the same out of each one. Say that again. I want to take the most possible, but whatever I take out of one, I got to be able to take out of the other. So all I can do is take 1x out of each. So just like dividing 2 out of each of these, or each of these by 3, I'm going to divide an x out. So I'm going to cross an x off of each one and write that x out here. Okay, now I look, and this got x's still, but that no more. So I can't take anything out. So I finish this by putting 4x squared and 5. Okay, so there you go. That is it. So now what I do is the same thing. I am going to find my GCF is all this stuff multiplied together. So it's 2 times 3 times x. So the GCF here is 6x. Okay? So what I want you to do is we're going to do one more of these, and then I'm going to be done. All right, so I'm going to erase this. I'll give you your last one to practice. Let's say 32 into the fourth. Hoorah. And 48 into the second. Okay, and that's what your job is. So one thing's not going to change. If you're going to use the division house as a method, you're going to start with it. If you're doing variables, you're going to expand that variable out. So into the fourth is 4 n's multiplied together. (48), leave a space, 48 n squared. Now don't do your variables first, do the numbers first. That's important. We'll find out another day why. So look at 32 and 48. A lot of people think, oh, right, 8 goes in. Cool. I'm going to start with a bigger number here. 8. 32 divided by 8 is 4. Bring those ends up. 48 divided by 8 is 6. Bring those ends up. Not Paul. Okay, ready? 4 and 6 can be divided by 2. 2 n. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Bring those ends up. That's what I'm saying. Okay, now my numbers are done, but I can see I got variables on each one. So what I'm going to do is, I am going to see, remember the rule is, I want to take the most out possible, but I can't take more out of one side than the other. I got to take the same amount from each one. So this has 4, that has 2. That means I can take 2 out. So I'm going to divide 2 out of this, and I'm also going to divide 2 out of that. So I write those 2 out here. So you can write it like that or n squared. You're actually dividing out at n to the second power. Okay, and then to finish, I bring up whatever I got left. This is the easy one. There's just a 3. This is 2nn. So that means n squared. Okay, so the GCF is what I divided by. So the GCF is all that stuff together multiplied. So it's 8 times 2 times n times n. So 8 times 2 is 16. N times n is n squared. So the greatest common factor of these two is that. And what you're going to find, this is extremely useful when you're factoring in algebra. It's extremely useful when you're reducing fractions. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. You're going to do the same exact thing, so I won't have to tell you how to do it. I'll be able to show you how to use it. So this division house gives you the GCF, the reduced fraction. It lets you find common denominators. It's just crazy. Really, really helpful in math. Okay, hope you enjoyed that lesson. Okay, so we're going to outro again with our song today. Again, I want to thank this time Bob Dylan and a group from the 60s called the Byrds. A couple of members are Roger McGuinn, Chris Hillman. very popular group back then. They made the way I'm playing this popular. Bob Dylan wrote this song. It's called You Ain't Going Nowhere. I just changed the lyrics up a little bit to make it kind of appropriate for what we're going through together right now. Okay, so again, I want to thank all the people that are watching this. I hope you're learning something. It's pretty important to do your best when you're stuck in a time like this, and if you find new things to do and new ways to learn, that's huge. So let's do it, okay? Here we go. It's hard not to go see family and friends. Time will come when we're together again. For now we show our love for them. We ain't going nowhere. Hoo-wee, what do you say? Well, each do our part, keep it safe today. I'll watch out for you, can watch out for me. We ain't going nowhere. Package came swift, I can smile again. My food supply was getting mighty thin. I love to go surfing, but I'm staying in. I ain't going nowhere. Ooh-wee, ride me high. Let's each do our part to keep it safe today. I'll watch out for you, watch out for me. We ain't going nowhere. Well, I'll watch out for you, you can watch out for me. Ain't going nowhere. Thank you. All right, see you next time. See you tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed today and learned something. Have fun, be safe. Stay away from each other. Okay, take care.